Welcome everybody, François Letard, JDRD30, and this will be a run through the alternate question of RPG Day. I took note of a list that I have found. I think it's on Anthony's blog, but in French. I did it in French, and some of the French YouTubers that I did the alternate questions were quite puzzled. They felt that I didn't have the same questions as them. So yeah, well, I'll follow the list that I have, and if I haven't responded to a question that I didn't know about, well, feel free to leave a comment. So yeah, I wanted to go through the alternate questions. My answers may be different from my French version of this video, depending on what I have in mind. Tell us about a memorable character retirement. I'll start with one of my own character. It was in Star Wars D6 long time ago. Okay, it was in my first few campaigns. I was mostly the GM into this campaign, but once in a while, one of the player would take the GM seat. So I had a player. I took the template Minor Jedi and played it. He was called Fleethier Frit. Being a Jedi made him special outright. Okay. I played him a couple of times, but at some point, I was more the GM than the player into this campaign. And when I was introducing Flizior, when I was a GM, well, it was kind of my character, as an NPC, and I was feeling uncomfortable with him around. At some point, I decided not to play him, just to retire him. And if I had to be the player again, I would take another character. So at some point, I decided that he would retire himself, and it made sense into the story. We were during the Rebellion era, so obviously Darth Vader was after him. So he was a little afraid and decided to get away far, in a far place in the galaxy and never come back. So, well, memorable is the one that comes into my mind. What makes that memorable is that I used to like this character. I liked him a lot. It's just that I wasn't comfortable as having him with me being the GM. I didn't want to have a GM character, okay? So that was memorable. But I think the second story I have for this answer is more memorable. With my kids group, not the one playing Hero Kids, but the one with Tranchon et Tracon. I had this character played by a girl. It was a kind of human-sized hamster. Okay, this is a race that the kids have created when we set up the world. This race is called Stirs, and she made a stir called Ratak. The game we're using, Tranchon et Tracon, has something special, is that at some point your character will retire. Okay, when you reach a certain level, okay, when your attributes have been maxed out the most that they could, when you get all the talents that you can earn in the game, it is said that your character should retire, and it did get by the book with that. She had lots of great adventures with her attack. It was her first role-playing experience, the first time she had her attack, but she kind of got into her role quite fast. And throughout the many adventures that she had, she had so much experience, and it was a very rich character. In the world that we've created, the Stirs used to be the enemies, of the human nations. When we began the campaign, it was kind of a new peace between the two races. So we were playing out the fact that Stirs were very impressive in front of humans, and they were quite afraid of them, since the memories of the war was not far behind. So I think she played well. She followed well that context, okay, that made her character feel more alive. She traveled through time with her character. We got some time traveling into the campaign. She fought the the most nasty enemies she could ever imagine. And by the last um, some of the last moments, I saw it coming that by the rules she should retire. So I made some role playing moments with her, having some member of her race coming to her and saying, "We need a new man. I think it should be you." And well, her character was a male, so I kind of prepared her retirement, and she was kind of getting used to it. And at the last game, she knew it was the last game she was playing her character. Little bit of sadness, but more sense of pride. I felt in this girl. She was kind of proud. Okay, she has accomplished something with this character. She got through an arc. Okay, she got lots of adventure, and I think the game serves well the retirement part. This is the only character in Tranchons et Tracons I have retired. The other ones that got the players never came back to finish their arc. Maybe someday they will. But Ratak, the Stir, is now the king of the Stir, trying to keep the peace and guide her nation through wisdom, and hand in hand with the human nations and the other that are. Describe an ambitious campaign ID. One of the most ambitious one that I had, that I was able to do, was a Star Wars campaign. Yes, Star Wars. The biggest campaign I ever ran. It was I ran it for 3 years. What was ambition about it is that I have mostly all of the West End Games modules, and also some modules from a French magazine called Casus Belli, which is a role-playing magazine. And somehow I found a way to tie all the modules together into a big campaign. So yeah, it was ambitious because I planned out in advance what would be the missions they would do. And it was ambitious too because it felt natural for the character, because between the adventures we had sessions only role-playing between themselves and setting up the dynamic of the group, the rivalry between some characters. Maybe some characters fell in love. Okay, the character were getting very real through that. And when we get into modules that were some once in a while very railroady, well, the characters were so established and had so much personality that every module they were making was taking their color. So it was very interesting, and we got through it. By the end, it was not very satisfying, but let's say that most of the 3 years were quite fun. I tried to do that with Stormbringer a little later. I have lots of modules for Stormbringer, and I think the advantage, but why Stormbringer I would bother taking modules, is that Elric Stormbringer is a very special world. And for me, it was just the lazy DM in me, but it's just that I took other people's writing, people who have made their homework into understanding the Elric world, and me just being the of that, bringing a module already made with all the cosmic relation already made. That was the idea. Never was able to do that with Elric. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. I have an idea for a Star Wars campaign, but it's not very ambitious. I think just the fact that linking so many modules and making a campaign that felt not railroady at all, even though there was very railroady parts to it, it was just okay. I don't know if I would do that again, but it was very fun back then. Share an innovative game from the last 12 months. I just don't remember what I've answered in French, I must admit. But I remember that I said that I'm not much into innovations. Since a year, I talk about Savage Worlds into another questions about that is the most new stuff that I got. Most innovative game. Well, yeah, I think I've mentioned a game. It's not a big innovation, but for me, it was getting into something new. I haven't played it yet, but it's Mutant Chronicles by Modifius. It was my introduction to the 2D20 system. I know that this game will be innovative when I play it. I just created my character, but I was very excited to create a character in that. Mutant Chronicles is one of my old love. In the 90s, I was a big fan of that setting and getting back into it. While creating the character, I was just excited to get through the creation and connecting back to stuff that I used to love. Yeah, it's not a very rich answer, but that's the best I could find for the third question. Describe your thoughts on playing a character. A character must shine. Okay, must shine around the table. Must be himself. You must play in order to be inclusive of the other players. Okay, you must shine, but you must not shade the light of the others. Okay, usually when I get into a table as a player, I make clear to the game master that I will take a lot of plays into the campaign. Yeah, so we should be ready for that. And I try to get the players to do that as well. I want those interactions. So my thoughts on playing a character is you are the hero of the story, and it must be clear for everyone around the table. All the other players with their characters are equal heroes of yours. And the game master, well, should take that into consideration. It will make the game more fun, more satisfying for him and for all the players. So yeah, you must shine. You must have a personality and interact with others, interact with the NPCs, interact with the world. That is what is playing a character is all about. Is being there and living it 300%. Okay, you're supposed to be hero. You shouldn't be economic about what you're doing. You shouldn't keep it for yourself. Okay, even though you're playing a shy character, introvert, well, that introversion must shine in a way. It must be there. It must be a characteristic that is obvious. You must not hide. Because of that, you must show it. The other players must feel it. Yeah, that's what I have to say for this one. Tale of a narrow escape. Probably it happened often. The one that came into mind and that I have recalled in French, it was the last time I really ran. I ran a one shot after that, but the last time I really ran a small campaign in Advanced Fighting Fantasy. Player characters were trying to get into a temple of Fulcra, the god of traveling. Okay, one of the characteristics of this temple it was stinking. Okay, it was smelling bad. It was something that one of the players has set up. He has played. I made them describe the temple, and one of them said, "Well, it smells bad." So eventually, they were able to enter the temple, but otherwise with some magical needs. But otherwise, they would just suffocate by getting there. What made this smell? What made this smell so bad? It was a great creature that I just don't remember the name. It's from the book Beyond the Pit. If there are some Advanced Fighting Fantasy expert here, a big. It looks like a Dune worm in the novels Dune, the movie Dune, with lots of tentacles. Players got themselves in the wrong place at the wrong moment. They got right into its lair. They should have escaped when it began to attack because it was a very tough monster. I wasn't smooth with the players. instead of escaping, they thought that they could fight it, and they kind of got into themselves into some alcoves, some openings in the walls, and trying to hit the creature. But with most of its tentacle, the creature was able to attack the characters, and that's when it began to be ugly. Okay, all the characters were being hit often, and one of them died. Most of them, got knocked out, and one of them, with maybe one or two stamina points, was able to deliver the killing blow to the creature after many hits. But it was close to, with one or two stamina points left, and how that creature was hard to fight. It was just mere luck by the end. Okay, I think that maybe the two last rolls of the creature against that character kind of failed. This is Opal's roll, so the character was able to roll high. Okay, or I think he tested his luck, which is an option into Advanced Fighting Fantasy. Instead of just fighting, you just test the luck, and if you're lucky, well, you deliver the blow. But nevertheless, it was a very costly fight. So all the efforts to get into the stinky temple to be nearly killed. One of the characters died, but nevertheless, they succeeded in their mission. They were able to get into that lost Fulcra temple with lots of plans and parchments of ancient places to find, which will be the premise of something if I eventually get back to Advanced Fighting Fantasy, which will be the useful, okay, for the next adventures, knowing that they know lost places. That is the best answer I had for this one. How do you prepare for a one shot? I create one problem to solve. Okay, first of all, and I create the context that leads there, but very broad. I don't write up many things. My pre-gens, usually I will do the pre-gens with motivations towards that problem, the towards resolving that problem. And I may think of some of the problems that might occur while getting towards that problem. Okay, basically it's that I try to be loose. Okay, we never know in a one shot, how much role playing players will do, how much long combats will be, and I hate to cut short in the end, but it happens once in a while. Yeah, because it becomes very narrative by the end. The last example, the last one shot game I did for RPGS, by the end, was just narrating the stuff. But yeah, we were overdue with the time, so we don't have any choice by then. But I try to think about, I try to prepare a 2-hour adventure, knowing that it will take 4 hours to do it. So yeah, I do with simple stuff, a simple single problem to solve, and just enough information to get the players in. And if it's about learning about the setting, I will try to put some iconic stuff from that world. Yeah. Basically it's that. Okay, it has to be railroady sometimes, but I try to be a little more loose about that. I create a problem, I call it the bomb. Okay, it's like putting a bomb into the hands of the player with a timer on it, and say to them, well, you must deactivate the bomb and go and let them try to deactivate the bomb. And if they don't do nothing, well, the timer will run out of time and it will explode. So it's a way to do that, in my opinion. there's a problem and they must attend to it, and more problem will come if they don't take care of it. And it's a way for them to try to solve it by their way, and I'm very receptive. Say I'm preparing myself to be very, very receptive with their ideas, to make them feel that they have a part into that it's not just a railroady story that I provide, but that they have participated actively into the one shot. That's what I'm trying to do. And it works well usually. How do I prepare for an extended campaign? Needs a big session 0. Creating the characters together, talking about it, setting up goals for the characters. And for a campaign out, it's like one shots, but I will create a big problem, okay? Something that makes characters a little harder into that world. Once again, they may not have to encounter it. Okay, there's just something in the background, but it is still there. And at some point, the characters may choose or not to take care of that, but things will get worse depending on what they're doing, or they will get better if they're very active and successful with that. But nevertheless, they try. That's how I do. And I know that campaigns. I'm not in the rush of a one shot, so I don't. I know that I won't rush stuff narratively. Okay, I will just try to stop every session with an interesting cliffhanger, but otherwise, I'll let the players do their own stuff into the world, and they might be forced or not towards problems that I will throw at them. But yeah, I don't plan out a whole adventure, just the problems. What are the problems? What are the motivations behind the important NPCs they might encounter? Tomorrow, if I would start a campaign, it would be like that. Okay, yeah. And then I will let the players go. But I think that the sitting with the players and checking out their characters, trying to find the dynamic between them, and I think it's very important to help prepare a campaign. That's one tip. What is your favorite character hook? Even in French, I didn't know what to answer to that because I don't understand the question. Hook is something that gets you into your character. I don't know what to answer to you, and frankly, I don't remember what I have answered in French. I know that I have answered something, but my favorite character hook. I think I talk about one feature that I like to bring into a character. If I'm freestyling a character, usually it will be very sarcastic. What's fun about role-playing games is that you can take something of your real life and put it in your character into an exaggerated way, which will make your character unique. And so being sarcastic is something I do in my life. I'm a very sarcastic person. I used to have a rock and roll band purely based on sarcasm. So when I do a character and I'm just letting myself loose into that, I expect him to be sarcastic, saying stuff to just throw it back at the mouth of someone who have said something. And I love to do that. I don't know if it's enough of a hook. I don't know if it's a answer that fits the question, but that's what I have in mind when it comes to that question. Yeah, but I like to have some challenges when creating a character and trying to get out of that mold most of the time. But let's see if I take the characters that I have right now. Yeah, let's talk about the characters I'm playing right now. That the one that are standing by. If I take Briscoe, yes, he's very sarcastic. I have Autry. which is a second edition character that might come back because the game master talked about him again. He's very sarcastic. What are the other characters? Well, I have created the Savage World characters recently for a science fiction setting, and he won't be sarcastic. Well, he shouldn't be. He's some kind of a science type person who will be very shy and very much into his head, thinking about science and knowledge. Okay, but yeah, being sarcastic, and maybe in the comments tell me what the question is all about. Might try to answer in another time. The hook question. What makes me want to be a GM? The first mechanical motivation behind being a GM is that I am a frustrated player that wants to try all sorts of games that the other players, well, that no game masters want to run. So I decide to be the game master myself. So I will be satisfied to running games that I like to play in. But in the end, I enjoy being the game master. I'm satisfied, first of all, to try out those games that I really want to try. And yeah, it's good to be the game master. What makes me want to be a GM? I want to be surprised. It's very cool to have to be surprised. Okay, it's very cool to bring an idea around the table. You know the context. You know your plot. If you have some plots involving your NPCs and your antagonist, you may have some ideas on what they're doing, but you never know what the characters will do, what to expect from them, what ideas and brilliant ideas they will have to overcome problems. So it's I love to be the game master for that, to bring back home a story of my own and a twist that I haven't seen coming because of the players. Yeah, that's something that I really like of being a GM. And of course, exploiting. Well, I said it, but the worlds that I really like, bringing on the table. Yeah, I'd like to play in Elric, so I will put the effort. It's fun to be the GM too, preparing the stuff in advance. Yeah, that's what makes me want to be a GM. What appeals to me about GM-less games? Never tried a GM-less games. I'm looking forward to try them eventually. I have a Fiasco here, which I want to try with my friend. I think I have some other games in PDFs. What appeals to me? Well, mere curiosity. I want to try them. I don't know if I will become a fan of that when I'll begin to do that. I know that probably I'll enjoy myself. I'm a very active player into a classic type of RPGs with a game master. So knowing that GM-less games works well with players' involvement, I think I will find a place into one of those games, and I'm pretty sure I will have fun. But just to experience, something new, getting to the richness of those types of game, yeah, that appeals to me. Just curiosity. Okay, I want to try that. Oh, maybe I will. Maybe this will change my life. I don't know. Very happy with GM type of game. Okay. So that is the answer for that question. Describe making a tough choice that mattered to the game. The only thing that comes into my mind, probably it happened a lot. The only thing that really comes into my mind was Margot. I often talk about this session, but it was a special one. Okay, if you don't know what is Margot, it's the name of a one-shot that I did in All for One Régime Diabolique. It was a one-shot for only one player. It was a solo session. Martin is the character, Anthony is the player, and you can check out my channel. Okay, the game is somewhere on it. You say Margot All for One, you might find it. Margot, Marjargot. Okay. Um, I never expected it to be a game like that, and yeah, I have to make choice. The game was about uh, getting to know more Martin's character, Anthony's character, Martin, which was the mysterious ones. He was he's a spellcaster, and all we knew so far was the big problems with his family. So I did want to see Martin be, interact with someone of the people. Okay, so I made this baker called Margot, and the adventure was about him remembering important moments when he met Margot. So the game was about playing out those scenes of his past. The experience went well. I think Anthony bought the ID. I'm sure he wasn't expecting that to be that kind of a game. And by the end, and it's a spoiler, Margot is taken in hostage, being in hostage, by one of Martin's cousin, Doricia, coming back from oh man, what is the, the country? Amen. I shouldn't read my notes, but she's coming from far in the east of Europe, and she wants to kill Martin and take the family or taunt him. Nevertheless, he was into facing a big choice, and yeah, eventually Margot died. What is a tough choice for me is that when I created Margot, I really wanted to make an NPC that I would love and an NPC that Martin would love. It was to create that big hook to get Martin to get attached to this character into a 2-hour session. Okay, and it worked. He really hooked. I took time to study what Marco could be, and okay, well, and I created this character. If she would have survived, she would have been a very interesting NPC to continue on. She was a very special woman, very literate for her status and for what was happening into the 17th century France. Because she was way ahead of her peers, and okay, she was someone, a great personality and all that. I portrayed her very well, my opinion. Okay, it felt right for me, and it was a tough choice. When I created her, I knew that it was 9 chance out of 10 that she would die. Okay, it was mostly written up. That a one shot, that was the problem. Okay, Anthony Martin could have saved her. There was chances for him maybe to save her, to find a clever idea to get her out of this situation, and maybe even defeat his evil cousin with the same at the same time. But it was a very tough choice. Yeah, how it mattered into the game. I think it leveled up the tone of All for One. Okay, leveled up the tension. It really helped us know more about Martin. I think it was a tough choice that mattered. Yeah, to kill an NPC, to create an NPC, to be butchered, only to enhance the whole game, the whole campaign. That is the best answer I could find for this one. Who would you like to share this hobby with? A lot of people. Technically, I'm already doing it through RPGs. That is one of the goals of RPGs. It's a series of one shot, and I'm trying to get different groups every time. Well, some of the players came back more often than others, okay, and they're all very welcome all the time. I could be satisfied with only having the same group up to the end of the experiment, but I'm trying to get different group every time just to share the hobby with other YouTubers or other persons doing it in French and English, in both language that way. But more important than that, I think I'd like to share it with my father. I have a memory. Probably the first week I was a GM with my red box. I made a solo session for my brother. My father sat down at the table and said, "Hey, I want to try that." So I rolled up his character in a minute. I really don't remember that session. I just remember my father being there, participating, and having fun with me and my brother. That's the only time he sat down in role-playing games. Why it didn't happen after? Maybe it's just me being uninviting, or maybe him not be that much interested into the hobby itself. There's many reasons, but today, I'd like to. Why? My father is a big fan of James Bond. I could find, that retro clone on drive-through of the James Bond role-playing game, or even try it with a simpler game. But yeah, I really like to share it with my father. My father loves to fish, to go fishing. I'm not a big fan of that, but I should do that. I should do that to please him. I could be very proud. And for my part, sharing role-playing games with him should be something, an obligation. Yeah, at some point, I just don't want to miss a chance before I just not able to do it. Another person I would have liked, because it was of my friend that that died. He died a couple of years ago. Was a bass player of one of my most important rock band I ever had. We did a show in 2001, and 2 weeks after he got a car accident and just went quadriplegic. He just can't move his head. Okay, like he could move a little his shoulder, but his life changed after a silly car accident, and he lived like that, up to his death. Well, he was able to get busy. Okay, he was able to be involved into many circles of many associations. Okay, but he was a very cool guy. I used to visit him a lot, but with time, I had less time to go visit him. With the kids, having kids made my visits even more rarer. But I made a point to go visit him a couple of times during a year, and in maybe the years before his death, I began to think, well, maybe I should play role-playing games with him. Okay, that's why I bought True 20. True 20, you only roll a d20, so I would have bought him a big, that big. I don't know how to say it in English, but a D20, okay, a big D20 that is very light, that he could kick with his shoulder or something like that if he had to make a roll. It would have been a great occasion for him to have legs again, okay, to be the hero running everywhere, having his arm, his leg, and describing what he would do as the hero he would have been into the game. And yeah, the way it works, you don't have that much time in your life as you would like. I was about to put on paper some of the stuff when I learned that he died. Okay, in this condition, even the simplest illness can be mortal since you don't feel it. So it comes to a point where you have problems into your organs, and that's what happened to him. He died, and yeah, so I wasn't able to make him play through 20, but it would have been the perfect game just because of one dice that does it all. Yeah. Of course, I'm sharing it with my kids. That's something I will continue to do. And with who I will try to share this hobby, well, as much kids as possible. Running hero kids at conventions and all that. Getting kids to join a table and make them smile with the adventure I will get them in. Yeah. And give them some sort of a right start. Okay, I've been doing role playing games for a long time, so I think it's important for them to have someone who did it before. I think I can handle a good game for them as the game master, and entertain them with that, and having them participate. And yeah, like I said, making them smile. Okay, that was the series of alternate questions. If you have any comments, leave them below. And yes, so also let out JDRD30. Up to next time, I hope you have as much fun in your life as in your games. Goodbye. Stop the broadcast.